Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome back to Talking with Trista. I'm your host, Trista Overby, and today's show is one that I feel is perfect for this time of the year and what we call the holiday seasons. There are so many people that are sad, lonely, feel hopeless around this time of the year for whatever reason. It could be they've lost a loved one, a loss of a job, just not feeling good enough within themselves, just unhappy with their life, whatever the reason is. Maybe they've lost a relationship that was near and dear to their heart and they just don't know how to cope with that. But whatever the reason is, depression is a very common problem in our society today. Even though it's so common, it often goes unnoticed. And we know if it goes unnoticed that depression is going untreated every day. Untreated depression is the common problem behind suicides in our nation. If you feel as if you may be at that point in your life to where you feel like giving up all hope and throwing in the towel, I want to give you a number to the National Suicide Prevention Helpline. This is a 24/7 number. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. 8255, and they have trained professionals that are willing to help you during this crisis, or whether it's just you just need a listening ear, because sometimes that's all we need is just for somebody to listen to us and just make us feel as if we're important or we're valued. So if you need somebody to just listen to you during this time in your life, give this number a call. Again, they're available 24/7 for you. And if you know anyone that may benefit from watching this show today, please feel free to share this video with them or tag them in the video, whatever you feel like doing to encourage them during this time in their life as well. So stay tuned for the episode I have prepared for you all titled Beyond the Surface with special guest Ieshia Farmer. I pray that this episode bless you all tremendously. Thank you. I really appreciate you being back with me today on Talking with Trista. Ieshia. Yes. How you feeling today?
Wonderful.
That's good. Yes. What kind of day have you had today?
I have had a busy but relaxing. I know that sounds a little weird, right? Because life is busy, but it was not as busy as it normally is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And speaking of life, in one word, how would you describe your life right now at this moment?
My life is, I always say, beautiful struggle. My life is a beautiful adventure.
Okay. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always been a beautiful adventure, would you say?
No.
Okay. Because you dealt with depression.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And, and just looking, on the outside surface, you never know what people have been through or what they're currently going through, right? Just briefly describe that moment in your life when you were dealing with depression. Just pretty much, what was your life like at that moment?
Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, I was always a pretty much happy child. I was always moderately quiet. I was always more reserved than anything. And so it was not weird for me to be quiet or weird for me to be a loner or anything like that. And so that, even as I grew into young adulthood, kind of became my thing, I guess. I always had a lot of friends, always, had lots of things to do, but it was just always that kind of by myself, loner type of thing that I had going on. And so it was around when I was in college that I discovered that, the feeling of depression. I always knew what stress was. I had heard of stress. I had heard of depression. But of course, depression wasn't something that we talked about a lot.
That's
true. It was frowned upon, to even say I'm depressed.
Right.
And so I think may have been about a junior in college when I realized, I diagnosed myself. Okay. I didn't have to go to see a specialist, anything. I knew that something was wrong. And so it started with just thoughts. Thoughts of things that, were going on. I was away at college. I would think about things at home, things that were kind of out of my control that may have been going on. I worried about my family a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't voice that as much, but I always worried about my family, and especially my mother. And so my worry would kind of go into what I was dealing with in college. You know, I'm having to do my work. I'm having to participate in activities and all these things that are going on. And so here I am worried about home. And so it kind of blended in with some other internal issues that I did not even realize that I had until adulthood, which would later let me know was daddy issues.
Right. So more like rejection, you would say. Yeah.
A major rejection. And the thing is, what was so funny about it, and it's not funny, but you know, that's our favorite word to use, is that I never really dealt with rejection as much, you know, from other people.
Okay.
Which is the craziest thought, but it was in my mental, because the main person that you expect not to reject you or abandon you is the person that did. And so I did not know how to accept acceptance, if that makes sense to you.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's more like perceived rejection, like you just assume they're going to reject me, so I have to sort of protect myself before it happens. Yeah.
Defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
I mean, total. And listen, when I say I was blocking everything, just blocking everything, you know, and people would embrace me a lot. I always had people that, and I laugh about it now, but I'm like, people always want to be my friend. People are always so courteous towards me, but it's just like, it's me. I will love on you, and I will, you know, be nice to you, but, you know, I am going to make sure that there's a cutting off point somewhere. I never wanted to give anyone the opportunity to hurt me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's good. And so as far as just getting more into the symptoms for, you know, someone out there who may, you know, try to diagnose themselves, you know, or feel as if they may be going through this, you know, because some people say, you know, you may feel sad a lot, not want to do your usual activities. Just speak more about the symptoms that you were dealing with.
Okay.
A little bit more in depth about them.
I remember the first time that I actually recognized it, I had just received a phone call from like a friend at home, and I was at school, and you know, we got off the phone. She called me and kind of shared some things with me. And the way that I am is like, I carry everybody's burdens. I may not say anything, but it's just like, especially if I can't do anything. So I listen, and I'm just like, okay, I add that to the other ball of confusion that's already going on inside of me. And so I get out the phone with her, and I'm at one of my good girlfriend's apartments, and she was like, she wasn't there. I remember just being laying in her bed watching TV. And so when I got off the phone, I just balled up in the covers and I started crying, which is really not my nature. Like I've always been tough. I've always been headstrong. You know, I've always been a person who finds a solution for everything before I worry. And so in that moment, I felt powerless.
Okay.
And so I remember crying just uncontrollably, and I was there by myself, and I just cried, and it was just like I cried for so many different things, and so my mind went towards everything. If you were to ask me, what is it that you're crying about, I couldn't answer.
Okay.
And so that was the first thing that let me know that something was really wrong, because I could not put my finger on one thing that I was hurt about. And so I just cried. I cried for a long time that day. I just cried, and the rest of the day it was just, I just couldn't find any relief. And so for months, I remember after that point, for months, I would kind of walk around and pretend, you know, that you're okay. You know, you would get up, you would dress up, do your hair and all that stuff, and you would interact with everybody to the best of your ability, but then you have to leave them eventually. And so when I would go, when I'm by myself, I remember like just grieving over something that I didn't even know. Like I said, I couldn't even figure out what it was. And so it was always crying. It was always, and I've always been a writer, and I would write like the darkest stuff, even about myself. Like, you know, I just felt like my future just had no, there was no brightness to my future.
Hopeless at that moment.
I felt hopeless. And I grew up in church and everything else, and so I was taught to be joyful regardless. But I could not find that relief in God like I needed to in that moment, because I did not understand. During that time, I did not understand relationship the way that I do now. And so I would pray, but my prayers would be so pity pat,
Right.
play prayers.
Right.
God help me. And even though that is a major, prayer, because when we say that, he does it.
Right.
But the intent behind it was so minimal, because in my mind, I just didn't think that God could help me with that. And so it was just, it just felt like I was grieving death, and I didn't know what it was. I did not know what it was. So that was a major thing. I would lie a lot when people wanted me to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I didn't, if I knew that I was in one of those moods, I would make up anything. I have a paper to do. I have this to do. I have that to do. I started missing class, and my family would never believe that. If I were to tell them that, I started missing class some days, and I was an English major. I had a very good rapport with my professors. And so there were 2 classes, like for real, that I would just sometimes, either stay in my room, or either I would just sit in the plaza. Like there was a plaza area there, and I would just sit in the plaza even by myself, and just with my friends, and I would just be quiet. And so no one knew that I was dealing with all of this stuff internally.
Yeah, because that was actually the next question, and you just answered that. And just speaking on, you said, of course, at that time you were a Christian. Just speaking a little bit about that, when it comes to being a Christian, and as you said that you were always told to, how some people say, sort of like fake it till you make it, speak it into existence.
Yes, Lord.
You know what I mean? Being at that place, being a Christian and understanding that what you were dealing with, it was real.
Right.
It was real. It's not nothing you could just sweep under the rug. What would you say to those people who feel that as Christians, we shouldn't be battling with depression? As Christians, if we're depressed or feel hopeless, it's like we're not trusting God, or something have to be wrong with us if we're depressed as a Christian. What would you say to someone who has that mentality?
To be honest with you, I know that God placed experts here for a reason.
Right.
And he has given us doctors.
Right.
He's given us counselors.
Right.
He's given us all these people who he's given gifts to in order to help us. And so I think that because of the whole stigma of I'm a Christian, so I just need to go and talk to my pastor, because we love that everything is, let me go see pastor about this, let me go, but we forget that pastor's a human being too, and pastor may be dealing with things as well. And so we keep pouring everything into pastor's gonna have to go and lay on the couch too, and so so I mean, it's just, that's how we're programmed to believe that this is not our type of thing. And so that's what I did for years. Like even after, I recognized that I had to be maybe 21 during that time, 2021, somewhere around there. I honestly did not put my finger on what the issue was until I was 27 years old. It's a long time. It's about 7 whole years that you're dealing with a depression or a demon that you can't figure out what it is. And so if you don't get help, like when you recognize it, if I had sought help in the beginning, when I realized there was a problem, a lot of the things that I went through within those 70 years could have been totally different.
And you said 7 years.
7 years,
Yeah, that's a long time. And, I'm just thinking, like you said, if you would have found a Christian counselor or whatever, God has given us gifts. And some people, they have a strong more sense of discernment to where they could, put the finger on it and, okay, well, this is really what it is. And, just allowing you to get that out verbally and not feel like you have to hide it. And that also allows healing, and someone that can guide you along the way on what you need to do to break free from, what you were dealing with. I mean, it does matter, and it does make a difference, just getting it out.
It does.
But one thing the enemy want us to do when we're dealing with things, especially as Christians, is to hush.
Yes.
Keep ourselves hush about it.
And that's what I did for that entire time. Like, I was quiet because my mind said, if I tell my family, they'll laugh.
Yeah.
Because your family, they look at you as like, especially me being the baby, it's like, you're just little you. Or, or your life can't be that hard. And I think that everyone kind of always looked at me as though, like, my life was a little bit easier. You know, you're the one that went to college. You know, you're the one who, you know, got this career and all those things. And so
shouldn't have anything to complain about. Or
and so even in that, and after finishing college and after getting a career, like that was when the greatest depression actually, you know, occurred. And so, it's hard, especially being African American and voicing, you know, that I'm depressed. You know, when you're supposed to be a strong Black woman, everything is about being strong. You have to carry the loads. You have to do this, you know, put everybody on your shoulders. And so, I programmed myself to think that I was just being strong when I was actually being afraid.
Right. And that is something, and I just want to put that out there. Fear, that's the number one thing that the enemy, Satan, uses to keep us in bondage, to keep us from being free, from getting the help that we need. So remember, if there's anything that you're dealing with, talk to somebody. I mean, it doesn't have to be a counselor, a pastor, just a trusted friend, just one person. Just talk to them about it. Get someone that can help you to be accountable and, you know, to get the help that you need. So just one thing, and you might have hit on it a little bit, but maybe you can just reiterate that. One myth that you would like to dispel or expel concerning depression.
That African American people do not suffer from depression. Like that to me is the main thing. And I think that's what keeps us sick. Mentally sick. Or
Black people don't go to counselors. But we don't go to therapists. We just pray about it.
We pray about it. We go to the altar. And that is, you know, that's a good place to be. That's a start. But when you pray about, God also sends you help. And so you have to go out there and you have to seek help. Like, God, okay, if I pray and ask God to help me, He's going to order the steps for the right people to come around. So yeah, you know,
He works through people.
Yeah, He works through people. So that means that He's going to help me get on the phone and call an expert who can help me with this. You know, yes, you definitely need good, sound, godly advice. I definitely would tell you to get with someone who is, like you said, a Christian counselor. But you also need someone who is certified in this thing, You know, although I did not have to go that far, you know, in mine, but I do feel like, as I said, if I had gone to someone sooner, that, you know, years could have been cut off of that situation. So I had to grow up in mine is what's the scary part. And I think that now that we have these types of conversations now, that more people would be more willing to go and really seek help. Because if not, you know, I would hate to see another young woman go through 7 years of just events, like one thing after another. I mean, it's just constant. One thing comes to you, then you think you find relief for a minute, then the next thing you know, another thing comes, and then it's like, okay, God, you find yourself angry with God, you know, and because we're, as you said, we're taught to go to God, just pray about it, just talk to Pastor about it.
Nothing's changing.
And when Pastor doesn't have an answer, then when, you know, God is being quiet, because sometimes, you know, He'll pull away to strengthen you too, and then, or He'll say, well, I already gave you an answer, but you're rejecting going to see the doctor because everybody's going to think, they're going to think something's wrong with you.
And it's good, even though you feel like He might have grown you through the wilderness, you know, but you'll be able to help somebody else. So that's good, and especially what you're doing now, just putting it out there, you know. So if y'all are going through, here's your don't you do it for 7 years. Listen,
no, you know, while you're in it, it's so hard, but you know what, I don't regret any of it now. Certain things I wish I could have made better choices, but I don't regret any of the situations now. But I definitely, if you can prevent going through years of bondage, you know, do that.
That's good.
Do that, because I mean that time you could be used towards doing something else.
That's good. That's
for
good.
sure.
That's good. And just last question on what I like for you to do, and you've already gave excellent, you know, encouragement advice so far. Just any final words of advice for just anyone who may be dealing with depression right now. What would you say to that person?
If you are finding yourself being grieving over something that you can't quite figure out, if you find yourself, especially in this holiday season, if you find yourself lonely and fearful, or if you just have no idea, what it is that is making you so sad, the first thing that I will definitely encourage you to do is definitely pray and ask God to send you relief.
Right.
And the next thing, after you get off of your knees, you need to seek counseling. You need to get it out. As I said, 7 years for me, it's too long for anyone to have to deal with any form of depression. I'm not saying that life is not going to be stressful. As a Christian, as a human being, period, but as a Christian, there are certain things that we're just going to have to deal with when it relates to our stories, because we have to have a testimony.
Right.
I mean, this depression that you're going through right now is going to be a testimony later.
Right.
And so, like, now I can honestly say that everything I've dealt with in the 7-year span, that I knew that I had an issue with depression. After I realized what my issue was, after I lost things, I lost vehicles, I lost jobs, I lost so many different things in that. And so right now I know someone else is probably going through that. You can be going through a depression as a result of finances, as a result of a broken relationship, as a result of family issues. All three of those were my thing. It can be so many different reasons, and you feel like, you are programmed as a curse, because a lot of times that's what we'll think, that we're cursed. And so seek help. And talk to someone who you can trust. If you can't afford a counselor, find someone who you can trust to help you. I don't have a 1-800 number, but I know that there is one that we can call and get free relief. But please, ma'am, please, sir, seek help, because if not, it's just going to grow. And it's just going to build up. And then when it bursts, you don't know how it's going to, topple over. Thank God that I fell into him. But there are so many people who fall into other places. And it can be suicidal. It can be things where you're hurting yourself. And we definitely don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we understand that this part of the testimony is our test.
Right.
And so in order for you to give the testimony, you have to be alive.
Right.
You have to be well. And so I just thank God today that I'm alive and well and in my right mind, because you if you lose that, you lose everything. And so life is worth living. No matter what it is, life is worth living. Life is so beautiful, even with the things that you feel like you don't have. You feel like you don't have family. You feel like you don't have friends. You don't have money. You don't have cars. You don't have clothes, a big house. Life is beautiful. I said that my life is a beautiful adventure right now. There are so many things that I want to have that I don't have yet. And even though I am still in the process of trying to gain those things, to me, the fact that I am alive and I can breathe and I can open my eyes, because, just this time years ago, I wanted to take that away from myself, and to know that God loves me enough to give me another chance so that I can save someone else. Your story is going to save someone else. Your story. And when you overcome it, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, because just as Trista said, the enemy wants us to keep our mouths closed. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy everything from us. And so we remain in bondage when we try to keep these stories away from people. I remain in bondage. And even after I came through that depression, here I am years later, I'm just talking about it. And so it's just like, imagine how many more lives I could have touched before this point. Don't waste what God is doing in this season. No matter what you're in this season, don't allow it to be, to go to waste. So just know that it's for your good. What is that? Romans 8:28 is all working for your good. Know that every single thing is working for your good. Don't feel ashamed. Don't care what your family says about you. Don't care what your friends say. If they say anything negatively, they weren't for you in the first place. Because anyone that's for you wants you to be well. And so put it in your mind that you're going out to better yourself so that you can better the world. So when you do that, God will send the right people your way anyway. And you don't need people. Let me. You love people. I'm kidding, but I'm serious. You have to love people enough to be strong enough in yourself to say, you know what, if they're going with me or if they're not going with me, I'm going because I want what God wants for me. And in order for me to get that, I have to be bold and I have to be fearless. Be fearless enough to go and say, I need help.
That's right.
And once you do that, your life will just take off and it'll go places that you never imagined. I am afraid every single day that I wake up because I have no idea what God has for me next. And that makes me excited, but it scares the dickens out of me. So just imagine what your life will be after this test.
That's good.
So trust God, trust the process, and never give up.
That's good. That's good.
And that's my word.
Good. Thank you so much, Ieshia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And
my
quickly,
goodness.
I want you, speaking of the great things he's doing for you, just, briefly just tell him what he's doing for you in that season, whatever you feel comfortable sharing at this minute. If you want to support in any type of way.
Well, for one, I think that everyone is most familiar, of course, with Reagan Prep Christian Academy, first of all. It's the school that I helped start with my good friend, Mr. Sean Reagan. And so that may have been the first major thing that he did, because it was just like in that season of my life, I was actually just coming out of depression during that time. And I would say maybe in the last stages of it. And so it actually has been beneficial for me emotionally because it has just shown me how God can work through me in that sense, academically. And so that's the first major thing. So shout out to Reagan Prep, all of the faculty, students, staff, parents, everyone that supports us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we have, of course, my ministry, and that's Esther's Jewels, Girls Purity Ministry. And this ministry was birthed in me. We're going on the 4th year now.
That's good.
And this has been something that has been near and dear to my heart, because I was kind of, a lot of things that I went through in relationship resulted in, a lot of conflict, because I chose to take the road that Esther took. And so it caused a lot of conflict in my choice to say no. And so I'm so glad that I stuck with it, because now we have Esther's Jewels, and we're training up girls to go out and be strong and powerful, and to wear their purity rings and be proud of it, so that they can know that sex outside of marriage is not honored by God. And so that's not the only thing that we're teaching them. Of course, we're teaching them about friendship. We're teaching them about, about career, how to conduct themselves, how to make good choices. And so it's so many different things that we do there. So Esther's Jewels, of course, is the second baby, and women, and this scares me all the time, but the way that women receive me all the time has just been amazing, especially as of late. I never considered myself to be a counselor or to be an expert or anything like that, but it's just like God puts you in certain positions and he sets you up for later, for what's to come. So we don't know what's to come, but whatever it is, we receive it. But I get to speak with a lot of women. I get to go to lots of events where I am able to pour into women, and women are able to pour into me. And so that to me has been amazing. And I am finishing up my book.
That's good.
Yes, finishing up my book. It's called Beautiful Struggle, and it's going to have a lot of excerpts from certain aspects of my life. Now, I'm not telling my whole life story in it, but anyone that knows me knows that I love beauty. I love, and everything has always been about the surface. With me, it's inner too, but it's always been making sure that the aesthetics are presented well. And so I've always been big on makeup and all these things. And so my book is going to be very unique. I've dealt with pageantry, and so it's going to be set up to kind of help you each chapter. It's not even really in chapters. Each section, it's more of like a devotional. It's going to be set up or is set up to help you stand up a little bit taller.
Okay.
So that to me is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be very exciting. I'm expecting big things with this book. God keeps speaking, major things about this book. I've been writing a long time, but it's just something about this particular one. And I tell people a lot, they don't even realize I've written 2 books before. Okay. I have 2 books. I'm not saying they're good books. Right. And they never got published. I never tried to get them published. I have 2 books that I've written, but to me, they lack substance because it was during a time when I hadn't experienced life enough.
Right.
It's called counterfeit comes before the real thing. What am I writing about if I had never even dealt with real life stuff? This is early 20s.
Right.
I can throw it in the trash. And I mean, it's just so many emotions that are involved in writing this book. And so, I'm speaking life into it.
That's good.
I'm excited about it. So, beautiful struggle.
Good. That's good.
That is where I am right now. And of course, I church every weekend. And as much as the church doors open, I church as much as I can. But yes, very, very excited.
That's good.
And just looking forward to what life has next.
That's good.
Minimizing while maximizing.
Right. That's good.
Minimizing while maximizing. And just letting God do his thing.
That's good. And I'm proud of everything that God is doing in your life, and I'm proud of you. And it's just great how we can see that there's life. You felt hopeless at one time, but all of these great things He's doing now.
Yes,
in your life.
Don't
after
make me cry,
that,
Trista. I told you I'm not a cry. I'm telling you, because you just don't know. I have been through it.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like. There's beauty. There's a sun after the rain, or sunshine after the rain.
Yeah, I got you. And another thing, and I'm glad you say that. And I know we want to get off of it because it's time to go. Y'all don't want to hear this for too long. But I mean, when you feel better, when you and this is something that I constantly talk about, and that's why I kind of talk about beauty a lot, because women we identify with what we can see,
right?
And so a lot of times, women will come up, oh, your makeup looks good, or this, I like this, or I like that. It opens up conversation. I can introduce Christ to you, when you come up to me in that moment. But when you have gone through a lot, and when you finally recognize God's grace, and when you start to linger, not hide behind, but when you linger in grace, we hide behind grace, we start messing up. But when you allow that thing to just wrap around you, it makes you look better. I've always considered and I'm going to toot my own horn right now. I've always considered myself to be beautiful. But it just seems like the Lord just, gave me a double portion after I really surrendered. And I'm still in the process of surrendering. But I feel like He has breathed a fresh new, breath of life in me physically. And so we're working on that still. But I am not ashamed to say that I love to look good.
Right.
And so I want all women, I want all women to feel like that. And that's something that I'm big on pouring into other women is, looking your best.
Right.
And when you feel good, you look good, and everything it's not all about how you look.
Right.
But that has a lot to do with how you feel.
Right, and it does.
It has a lot to do with how you feel, especially women. We want to be beautiful. Be beautiful to yourself. But it's just something about God's grace that just, ooh. Right.
That's true.
I'm telling you, it illuminates your skin.
Right.
It starts to, slim things up. He's working. Hallelujah. He's working. Come on here, Jesus. He is working. I'm telling y'all give it a little while. I feel sorry for those of y'all that did reject. I'm just kidding. I feel sorry for those of you who said no. Oh no, and that's what happens, ladies. When you really get it together, I'm telling you, and I'm living proof now, when they see that you are walking in that grace, in that light, they'll start coming in. And you know what you have to do?
Not the
and tell them, be nice to them. Be nice, be a lady at all times. But, we don't backtrack. Yeah. Unless the Lord told you to do so. But don't backtrack. Let them not. But you know what? It's all right for them to see that what they may have rejected.
Right.
Because they rejected Jesus too. Always remember
That's
that.
good.
What they may have rejected, look at what it turned into.
Right.
You thought it was an ugly duckling, and look at it. It's a beautiful swan.
Right.
So, girl, don't sweat whoever. That's a whole nother topic for another show. Right. Don't sweat whoever doesn't sweat you. Don't sweat them, I'm telling you. There's so many of them out there that we'll see. But it's not all about them either. It's just about how you feel. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
But I'm for real.
That's good. So thank you, Ieshia. I really do.
Thank you, Trista, for always having me. I'm proud of you, too. I mean, I know we haven't known each other a long time. But I told you before, like, your show is going to go, it's going to go globally. I'm serious. And you just keep doing what you're doing. Keep investing in it.
Yeah.
And keep putting this time. Last time we didn't have these microphones and things like that. Keep doing things like this, and it's just gonna. And then Trista, when y'all start seeing certain things, happening with Trista, and because look at her already, and y'all start seeing certain things happening, it's just like, oh man, I should have. When I had the chance, I should have. Nope. Because now, when she's up on Oprah's level, she wants Stedman. She don't want Tyrone. I don't want you to be looking back here at Tyrone.
That's what Stedman.
Yeah, you want Stedman. You don't want Tyrone. That's right. You don't move backwards. You let Tyrone stay here. Shaheem and all them. No offense, Tyrone and Shaheem, but y'all can be Stedman too. But she's working towards Stedman.
Oh goodness!
Praise him. Praise him.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Farmer.
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
It doesn't have to be your last time.
I'm pretty sure it won't be. I'm looking forward to next time. I don't know how you're going to elevate next time. Next time, maybe we'll have some, I don't know, some more scenery. But I'm excited anytime that I can come and participate.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all also for tuning in and always supporting and talking with Trista show. I know we haven't been posting for, past couple episodes, but just continue to just hang in there with us. And we're on our way to, working that schedule out for you to make sure we're still being able to give you these shows. Make sure to tune in with us every second and fourth Friday of the month, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Talking with Trista. Until next time.